All right, so after example one, so now we're going to go over a we do problem. So again, follow along and then make sure you're going through the steps and taking notes on here on this little section for this part. So first thing we want to do, same steps as before. Basically, the same process is just, again, those quadratics are slightly different. So the very first step is step one, is this in standard form? So again, remember, is it in that form of ax squared plus bx plus c equal to 0? And that's what we're going to get to later on. So again, is everybody on the same side? Okay, in our case, no. So what's going to happen is, how would you move the terms over to the exact same side, so then that way it's easier to solve? So again, we have our 2x squared, we have our plus 3x, we have our equal to 9. So again, move this 9 over. So how would you move it over? Cool, we got to do the opposite. I'm going to do the opposite to both sides. Since -9 does not have any like terms on this left side, I'm good to go. I can just recopy everything here. So 2x squared in descending power order, that's our standard form. And then tack on this -9 at the end. 9 minus 9 here, and look what happens. Now I have a 0. The equation must be set equals 0, so that's basically following this little step. So now that it's set equals 0, now we're ready to do our little factoring here. So again, going through our factors from before, leading term, 2x squared, -9. Take their two terms, our coefficients, our numbers here, and multiply. I will get a -18. So what would be those factors of -18? So I got 1 and 18, I have 2 times 9, and I have 3 times 6. Now, out of these three sets, which one can possibly give me this number here? So if I take a look, I'm looking for this term. So which one possibly has a chance of getting that +3? Okay, so we're going to take a look at that 3 and 6. Now, when I multiply, so think about your multiplication. So if I want to get a negative number, what do the signs have to be in order to get a negative number here? Cool. If you said one's negative, one positive, you're right on track. So one of these has to be negative, one has to be positive. Now this sign here helps us determine which one has to be negative and which one has to be positive. So I always look at this as a +3. So out of these, if I add or subtract, who's going to have more of it? So I'm going to have a +6 and then -3. And let's go ahead and check before we start finishing this off. So -3 times 6, that's -18. -3 plus 6, they're opposite signs, so they're going to subtract. Or I can do it this way as 6 minus 3, and I'll get a +3 up here. So that's our two factors for this. So I'm going to go ahead and set this up as -3x, set this one as a +6x, and then let's go ahead and factor. So I have a -3x and a -9. Looks like I can take out a -3 out of each one. If I take a look at this one, I have a 2 and a 6, so it looks like I can factor out a 2. And they both have an x, so I can also factor out an x. Here, 2 and -3, they really don't have much in common except for that 1, so basically that's their greatest common factor. And then I take a look at my x, so they both have an x, so I can easily factor out an x. So if I take a look at 6x and -9, what number can I factor out of each one or divide out of each one? I can get a 3 out of this one. Okay, and that would be a +3 here. Okay, now, so we have our factors ready to go. So now change this whole quadratic equation into a product by finding its factors. Here we go. So I'm going to have my 2x minus 3. That's where I got these two numbers. I'm going to put those two together, put them in little parentheses for our products. And then I'm going to write down this one up at the very top. So it's x plus 3. Again, before set equal to 0. So this is the same thing as my little term here. We're just writing in a different form, so our factored form. Now, because it's set equal 0, now we can apply that 0 product rule. And what that means is basically I can take each one of my binomials and set it equal to 0. So I'm going to go ahead and break them off. I'm going to take this first one, I'm going to put it in red, 2x minus 3. Set that one set equal to 0 for my two mini equations. And then my second one, I'm going to take this one, I'm going to go ahead and write in a little purple, x plus 3 equals 0. And then let's go ahead and solve. So first step, I'm going to take this, I got to get this x by itself, opposite sign. So get that to the opposite. Cool, those two cancel. Bring down my 2x, 0 plus 3, I get 3. X still needs to get by itself, so how do I get rid of this 2? Now remember, this says 2 times x, So what would you do? Okay, if you said divide, perfect. So I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to divide what I do to one side, I do to the other. These two cancel, so now I have x equals 3 over 2. Okay, so there's our first solution here. So let's go ahead and take a look at our second part. So I have a x plus 3 equals 0. I'm going to do the opposite just to get this x by itself. I'm going to move it to the right side of my equation. These two are going to cancel. And now I have x equals negative 3. And those are my two solutions here. So remember, write it into your solution notation. Bracket. Which one's smaller? Is it the negative 3 or is it 3 over 2? Okay, if it's our negative, since it's smaller, we're looking at negatives, we owe. So I'm going to put bracket negative 3, comma, 3 over 2, and then close it off with my bracket. So these are my two solutions here.